Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know this gentleman after he just shook your hand, shame on you. This is J.D. Lambright. He is running for County Court Law number 2. We've already heard the others who are running for that office. Mr. Lambright, Mr. Bagley is our moderator, and Mr. Burling is our timekeeper. He'll be giving you signs and clues. And you've got 4 minutes to give us your spiel on why you are the best person for that job, and then we'll go into question and answer mode for the remainder of your 20-minute segment.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Take it away, sir.
And thank each and every one of ladies and gentlemen here tonight. I honestly and sincerely say this, I appreciate you being here. I wanted to be here in front of this group, in front of any group, because I appreciate people that take the time out of their lives. We've all got things to do. And as everyone in this room knows, very few people are willing to devote the time and attention that you and your group and some of the other groups in the county are to get to know candidates. And I tell people, a judge may have a whole lot more influence over your lives, your kids' lives, your families and friends than perhaps who's in some higher office. But most of the time, I see by the time people work their way down to the ballot, get down to the local races, they may not even vote for a judge, or if they do, they may not know who they're even voting for. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about me, why I think I'm the best person for this job. As you know, I'm J.D. Lambright. A little about me, I'm in private practice right here in downtown Conroe, the Conroe Tower. I'm in my 11th year of private practice. Prior to that, I was with Shell Oil Company for 25 years. And while I was with Shell, they sent me to law school. I was in a different profession with Shell. My background, I'm born and raised in Texas. My wife and I are both from a little town up in Panhandle, near Amarillo, Pampa, Texas. Some of you may have heard of that. Went to high school in Pampa, Texas, and moved on to college at Texas Tech. That's where I got my master's in electrical engineering. And then in 1974, I hired on with Shell as a geophysicist. And out of the next 25 years with Shell, I spent about 20 of those in various management roles, really in projects all over the world, although I was headquartered in Houston. And I point to some of that experience. I think that's one of several things that really set me apart in this race. I'm now in my 36th year of both business and legal experience. And I've heard some of my opponents say, well, that's not relevant. I dare say most people in this room think your total life experiences, your work experiences, all of that comes together to make you who you are. And I think that makes the kind of judge that I want to be and that I know I'll be if I'm elected to this bench. I've managed thousands of people over this time frame, managed multi-million-dollar budgets on projects, and that's what a judge needs to do in this court also. This court has the largest staff of any of our courts because it handles all the probate matters. It also has to manage its own budget. I'm the only candidate that has any experience doing that over more than 1 or 2 people. I have handled every kind of case that will come before this court. This court handles every probate case for Montgomery County, handles all the civil cases for Montgomery County where the amount of controversy is 100,000 or less, handles the appeals from all the JPs. I've done all those kind of cases. And we can talk more about other kind of cases as well. A bit more about me. My wife and I just celebrated our 34th wedding anniversary. Perhaps that speaks better than anything my thoughts about family values and the importance of family and the marriage relationship. We have a wonderful relationship. She's helping me in my family. She's looking forward to success in this. I've been a conservative all my life. I remember my mom and dad, who neither were particularly educated, but that's really where I was instilled with my conservative values. I've been voting this way far longer than any of my opponents had even been alive. In fact, on the experience level, my 36th year, I have more years of experience, both business and legal, than all 3 of my opponents added together. And I think when you're looking at a judge, as I tell people, and I've told some of you have heard it, you're electing someone to sit in the middle, be unbiased, be fair, be respectful to the people. And that's what I've done all my life, and that's what I intend to do if I'm elected to this bench. So, thank you.
Questions?
In fact, we got that as a question on the night. How many of you were there? I'm working on it now. One thing I do appreciate the other night, I think all the candidates were honest and upfront with that question. I don't know that, but that's my thinking. If somebody had said, in fact, I read the Constitution the night before, I'd be a little suspicious. And I owned up to it back in constitutional law class, but one of the gentlemen there handed it to me, and it's staying with me now to get up to speed. Very important thing, and I think all of us admit we were remiss in not having done that. Things have been just extraordinarily hectic since the other night. We are at 3 and 4 events a day. Plus, I'm still running my own practice. That's one difference between me and some of my opponents from the DA's office. So. Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'd like you to further explain, I know you gave some explanation here, your reason for being against the death penalty.
My views, I think, have wavered on that over the years, particularly as I've got into this business. I do see connections in terms of the abortion issue, in protecting life then. There are some really bad people in our world that do some really horrific things. One part that really concerns me in terms of the death penalty, and I know y'all have all seen this, I see it in the news, is the mistakes that are made in our legal system. Obviously, the death penalty is the finality of that can't be undone. Yet we continue to see case after case throughout the country where someone is exonerated by just really irrefutable DNA evidence. Unfortunately, people take a stand under oath and lie. Mistakes are made in investigations. Sometimes there's rushes to judgment. And that's really where my concern comes in. We can't undo that. It's imperative we get it right.
What kind of percentage is that? My understanding that is, just a tiny, tiny percent of where an innocent life is taken.
I'm sure you're right. I don't know the percentages, but I would have no reason to disagree with that. On the other hand, if you're that person, or that person is your son, or your daughter, your spouse, your neighbor, it's of the utmost importance to that person that it be done right. And if we could remedy those problems in our legal system, so we and I think a lot of that's going to happen now with DNA evidence and some of these things. If you knew you're getting it right, but to execute what could be a totally innocent person, even though the percentage is small, that really causes me to pause.
I know, does somebody else have a question?
Go ahead.
Well, let me get somebody
Go ahead.
else.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, what you see more commonly than a mistake like that being made is you get somebody who has taken another life and he gets out on parole quicker sometimes than you can for tax evasion or something like that, and he takes another life. And I think that's the much more common scenario. I mean, a rapist gets less of a sentence than for a lot of other crimes that we wouldn't consider half as heinous.
Absolutely, that does happen. In repeat offenders, recidivism, you do see this a lot. People that commit a crime, whether it's a capital offense or any other offense, there are people that just repetitively commit crimes.
And yet you still would oppose the death penalty for that.
Well, again, of course, the death penalty is very narrow in where that can even be applied. And if we can take the necessary steps, then, like I said, that's the reason when I said I have wavered on that over the years, because I keep seeing these cases where people have perjured themselves on the stand, where the evidence is just not there, and then it's changed later. But I don't have an issue with the death penalty if we've done the proper job to ensure that we're doing justice.
Peter.
In a family law situation relating to children, what are the principles that guide you in determining the boundary between the parental authority and the state's authority?
Very, very good question. And I know some of you were at the Eagle Forum the other day, and several questions got asked about cases like that, cases involving Children Protective Services. I don't keep track of numbers of cases, but I venture to say over the last 10 plus years, I've probably between 100 and 200 cases involving CPS, Children's Protective Services. And I've handled ones where CPS is not involved, but that's the predominance of when our government has stepped in, that really relates to